there was some news we didn't want to ignore because this is not major news, but it's major in the lanes that we travel in. Glenn Greenwald quit The Intercept because...
And he's taken a position with due dissidence. Thank you, Glenn.
Right, exactly. Well, it's funny because he was talking about how people were accusing him of quitting the job at The Intercept so that he can go and freelance and make a bunch of money on Substack.
Saw that, yeah.
As if Substack is more lucrative than The Intercept. Like he said, look, I made, and he was bragging about how much fucking money he made at The Intercept. Like, I made a ton of money at The Intercept. He said, you got people at The Intercept who barely write, who make like $200,000 a year. I would like to inquire there. Maybe
really
sounds like something maybe worth doing.
Publisher thing.
And there's an opening available now, obviously. So I don't know. Maybe I have to submit for
Glenn's
that.
old slot.
But
hey,
he
Glenn,
went to...
Could you put in a good word for me?
Right, exactly, yeah. Well, they still got... I mean, Ryan Grimm is still there. Scahill is still there. There's still good people there. But his bone of contention... Yep, Fong is good. Was that the editorial committee didn't want to publish an article critical of the media for not covering the Joe Biden and Hunter Biden email laptop Burisma gate, whatever it is. And they basically got back to him saying, you can write this as a media critique, but we don't want to traffic in the innuendo regarding Joe Biden and his son. Mm-hmm. Of course, logically speaking, if you're going to if your point is that the media should take this seriously, then you obviously have to make a case of why it should be taken seriously, and that includes some criticism of Joe and Hunter Biden. And he said, 5 days before the vote, they just don't want to go there. They're just protecting their candidate at this point, and he quit over it. And I say good for him. I mean, I'm on his side. We talked a little bit about this before we turned the mics on, but he's one of the only real journalists out there still. Sure. And he did the thing that a real journalist would do, which is, look, I'm not going to be censored here, and I'm not going to let an election timetable affect my criticisms of candidates. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, if you're not willing to criticize a candidate before the election, then you may as well not be willing to criticize them at all, because what you're basically saying is, I'll only attack you after you've secured power.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll do nothing to jeopardize you trying to secure power.
Right.
Yeah, look, I mean, there are all of these prominent progressive journalists. Matt Taibbi, it's interesting because he grew up in the news business. You can see he takes what the news business has become extremely personally. I would say about 50% of what he writes at this point is taking apart how the business model of the media has destroyed journalistic standards,
right, including a new book, a whole book about
it. Yeah, Hate Inc.
Yeah,
but he's around this, and he's had a field day with this Hunter Biden thing, how it's been handled. Yeah, look, more and more of these people. Taibbi's on Substack. He still works for Rolling Stone, but it looks like he's doing Useful Idiots for Rolling Stone, but he's doing his articles for his own Substack.
I guess so. Yeah, I haven't seen anything of his in Rolling Stone recently.
No, I think
they're all in for the Democrats, and they're just not going to go there.
Sure. So you're going to wind up. Look, I was talking to a liberal friend of mine a couple months back, and I was talking about, and this is a critique Taibbi raises a lot too, how it used to be if you had like a big city paper, those papers always had one writer who was like the voice of the working class, that had a Jimmy Breslin or a Stubbs Terkel. Okay, you got to understand, this is what you're dealing with when you're talking about your liberal media consumer. Do you know what he came back to disprove, that there were no working class voices in the media?
Let me guess.
I don't think you'll ever guess.
All right, well, give me a hint. Like,
he's very old, and he pops up on various roundtables when they need a guy with a heartbeat and a pulse.
Yeah, that's too vague.
That's what I'm saying. E.J. Dionne.
Oh yeah, no, never would have guessed that.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, how would you possibly get? Because he's such they
I'm surprised he had that.
Put him in a seat when they need somebody.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he would even think that's a good point. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. Like,
right,
he did not understand how ridiculous the idea of presenting EJ Dionne as to the point that I didn't even catch that that's what he was saying at first.
Right.
Like, I went right past it until he came back to it, and I was like, hang on, you're saying that's who you're offering as a, like, it's so off the beam.
Right,
like,
yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind. This is what you're dealing with these liberals. And I'm afraid this is the unfortunate thing about all of these real journalists fleeing into Substack. I mean, there's not going to be anybody left. It's going to be kind of the final triumph of this form of journalism. I mean, if there are no Greenwalds, I mean, there aren't any.
Well, this is also, I mean, look, to say this is a product of Trump is probably an exaggeration, but Trump had a lot to do with this. That's why they call it Trump derangement syndrome, because you have a guy who is so odious and so foul that just elicits such an emotional gut level response from liberals. Like, the liberals hated George W. Bush, but it wasn't down here. It wasn't in the gut they hated Bush. You know, it's like it was up here. It was sort of a neck up hatred of George. But this is like primal, and so it is acceptable, completely acceptable in their minds to make shit up about him. Borat just had the thing, the Borat movie came out where Sacha Baron Cohen taunts Rudy Giuliani. First of all, they kind of set him up there with the whole microphone undoing thing.
Okay, yes. They set him up by putting him in a room with that girl, but at the same time, don't tell me he wasn't about to pull his dick out.
I don't know if I think that's inconclusive.
Nah, man, his hand was down his drawers. That had nothing to do with a microphone.
I think it was inconclusive because I know how those labs work, and it's possible that he was tucking. I'm not saying it wasn't the case, but I'm saying it could have been. It was not provable.
Keaton, let me ask you something, man.
Yeah.
You're, how old are you?
33, almost 34.
Okay, man. If you were in a room with that girl alone in a hotel, would you feel comfortable doing what he was doing there?
Oh, no.
Okay, so
no, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Now I'm gonna tell you, I'm so old. I just forgot for a second how old I am. I'm 52. Never in a million years, if you put me in a hotel room with that girl, would my hand go anywhere near where his head. It's like, no way, just absolutely no way.
Yeah,
you don't do that by accident. You don't. The man's 74 years old. He knew where he was. He knew what he was doing. I'm sorry.
All right, I don't totally agree. I don't think it was conclusive. I don't think you could prove it. If Sacha Baron Cohen gave it another 5-10 seconds before he broke into the room, you would have had your proof. Because she did grab,
protectiveness of his actress.
I know, but you're doing a prank here. You're doing a gag here. You subject yourself to certain risks. Obviously, nothing was going to happen. I'm talking about 3 seconds where he could have actually pulled it out, and then you'd know for sure. Nothing would have happened to her.
That's a tough call to make in a moment.
Yeah. All right. Well,
like where exactly do you go before your actress might get groped?
All right. Well,
when do you run in there before she might get assaulted?
I think another 3 seconds you would have had proof. But anyway, that's not even the whole point of what I'm talking about. When Rudy's running out, he yells at him.
Giuliani masturbation apologist, man. I never expected that of you.
I'm saying it was not conclusive.
You're like, spank it, Rudy. You go.
Well, no, according to my friend Justin, because we talked about this, he apparently watched the scene. I have to watch it again. According to him, he saw her pull his shirt out of his pants. Like when she was tapping him or whatever, and like helping with the mic, she pulled it, which that could have been a setup. She could have been pulling the shirt out so that he would maybe try to tuck it back in and do it. They could have done a setup. That could have been a sting operation. It was to a certain extent. But anyway.
But you don't lay on the bed for that. I'm not even saying
not,
I wouldn't tuck my shirt in front of the woman in the room, but not laying on the bed because it's so
all right.
suggestive.
Okay. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm saying if I were a juror in that case, I could not sentence him to any, time for that because I don't know. There's reasonable doubt, is what I'm saying.
Well, he didn't do anything illegal.
I know. I'm just saying, as a metaphor, I
There was
couldn't.
mock coming on to him.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying, as a metaphor, I could not say that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in that situation. But anyway, that wasn't even the main point. The main point is on the way out the door, Sasha yells at him, whatever, something about you only like hotel rooms with golden showers or whatever. And that whole golden shower narrative was pretty debunked, right? That was not for real.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
It was literally like a guy told a guy who told a guy kind of thing.
Right. Here's another place I'll go that's controversial. And I've gotten into fights about this with many, many people. But the whole thing where they say Trump mocked the disabled reporter by doing the hand gesture, where he says, "Oh, I don't remember what I said." I made the point to people that it's totally understandable looking at a picture of that guy with his hand kind of messed up, and then looking at Trump's impression, it looks like he's mocking him for that disability. However, when you look at the way he mocks other people, like he mocks Ted Cruz in the exact same fashion when he was saying Ted Cruz got caught in a lie. So that's probably just his impression of a flustered, confused person who waves his arms around funny. And they come back with saying, well, yeah, but it's still insensitive because you look like you're, doing a slur against, mentally disabled people. Well, and I said, listen, that's not the point.
Down this road, and intention doesn't matter.
Well, but the intention...
These folks don't care what your intention is.
Well, that's what I mean. What I'm saying is they're obvious...
You could be from Mars and be completely unaware that there are different human races, and if you offended one of them, you'd be responsible.
Right, but what I'm saying is, my point is that their clear line of attack was that he knew this guy had a physical, are we allowed to say handicap, deformity? Is that not politically correct? I don't know.
Where are you from? Fucking Mars?
They assessed that he knew...
Differently abled.
They assessed that he knew this guy was differently abled and that he specifically singled him out to mock whatever was wrong with his arm or whatever. And that's clearly not, when you look at the way he's mocked other people, that's clearly not what he did. And why would he know what this guy looks like? All he was basing it off of was a quote in a paper or something like that.
Right.
The point is, a very long-winded way of making a point about Glenn Greenwald, and this is what Greenwald said. He says, these people are just out to destroy Trump. Whether you tell the truth in order to do that, or whether you make shit up in order to do that, is irrelevant. They are out to destroy Trump. That is it. And so I have this piece about Hunter Biden. They say, no, we're not running with that right now. They probably would have run with that a week from now. But no, we're not going to do it now. And that's, one of the reasons why I guess he left, because he's just not willing to operate in that space. And, I think that's one of the reasons why Trump is not as unpopular as he should be. One of the reasons why he has a 40% favorability rating is because a lot of people are kind of half and half on the guy, but they see with their eyes what liars some of these hysterical Trump critics are. Like, if and they're like, you know what? No, like, I don't like that. They don't like seeing people fall victim to these sort of obvious distortions because they feel like that could happen to them. They feel like I could say the wrong thing at work and get canceled over it, right? Sure. I mean, they put themselves in his shoes, and you're actually doing him a favor by making up shit about golden showers and trying to spin some narrative about how he singled a guy out for a disability when he clearly didn't. And so anyway, that's, I think, what is at the crux of what Glenn's complaint is.
You're destroying your credibility. And
right.
That's why I mean it's interesting to me because I think perhaps the core belief I find that unites all liberals is that everyone other than themselves is stupid. And
biased, because they don't consider themselves biased. They just consider themselves smart enough to know the truth.
They're smart because they know the truth, right? Because they're working with the right facts.
Right, exactly.
They're reading the right facts from the smart people. So they're reading Thomas Friedman articles, and it's telling them everything. So, but the core premise of democracy is the wisdom of crowds, right? I mean, that's the core premise of democracy, that people en masse will tend to make decisions in the best interests of the whole. And, far from the narratives that were fed, if you look at people's actual opinions, democracy works in terms of the wisdom of crowds. We don't have a democracy to express it through anymore, or we wouldn't have the candidates that we have. We wouldn't have the politicians that we have. None of these people could get elected in a fair, non-oligarchic system. Those are the only people that are given to you, and then the media just propagandizes on their behalf, depending on what cluster of media you go to. Most people realize that the media is no longer reliable, and they didn't always think that way. It's not like they always thought that. They stopped trusting the media right when the media went corporate, right when the media started to right when the corporations that owned the news outlets started trying to make them profitable. That was considered something you didn't do until about the 1980s.
Right.
You didn't try to it was a public service. That was it. And that was part of the deal for holding the public airwaves.
Exactly. Precisely, yep.
And look, wisdom of crowds. The American people noticed a difference because the media's rating as a trustworthy institution declines and declines and declines and declines, beginning right at that time when they start making those changes.
Right, and it's inevitable that it would, because if you are now looking to profit off of your news coverage, you need, in order to turn a profit, you need a target market. And a target market is not people with no opinions on anything. A target market is either liberals or conservatives, broadly speaking. So Fox News feeds that market. MSNBC feeds that market. CNN feeds the market of kind of liberals who think they're not really liberals. They call it as they see it, but they really have a bias. That's why CNN is so sneaky in their bias. It's not like MSNBC. They won't put Rachel Maddow on, but they'll put Chris Cuomo on, whose brother is the
is the governor
of it. But
have him
Anderson Cooper,
as sentencing the elderly to death.
Right, exactly. But that's inevitable when you have a for-profit news business, is they're going to target to people who will respond to them and that bias. But because part of the liberal brand is intelligence and reason, they don't consider it bias. Right.
Well, that's why if you hit them with a number like that, the way that they deal with all numbers that show the majority of Americans don't agree with liberals is, people got stupider. It just shows how much stupider people are than they used to be. They used to see how great the media was, and now they're so stupid, they just go on the internet, and that's why. But we realize that Anderson Cooper is really important.
Yeah, who was it, the guy that they said I forget what it was. Oh man. Oh no, I'm losing the name here. But they compared one of these stooges to Walter Cronkite. And they're saying he's the Walter Cronkite of our time, and it's on the people that they don't respond. And I forget who it was. It was either a Chris Hayes or somebody like that.
That's it. That's how the liberals they never do self-reflection. They never say...
It wasn't Walter Cronkite. No, I have it now. It was, I believe, Lawrence O'Donnell is the new Edward R. Murrow. I think that's the point.
Are you fucking...
It wasn't Cronkite. Yeah, something
they
like
actually say that?
Somebody, something... It was definitely those two names. I forget where I heard it, but that was the idea.
That's tough. That's tough for me to hear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That I got to punch a wall.
No, but that's what you. But that goes to the point you're making, where like in their mind, like it's the population that's changed,
Sure.
not the media structure that's changed.
Right.
But we still have the same kinds of great people in news now as we had back then. It's that the people are stupid.
Well, and what's really fascinating is for most of us who are, whether you lean conservative, whether you lean liberal, I honestly believe this, even though it's not very much in evidence in our government right now. Most people are reasonable. Like most of us, most Americans, most people. I think most people in most places are pretty reasonable. We look at these brain-addled liberals and these fox-addled conservatives, and they do not represent the vast majority of the American people. And for liberals, they look at these fox people with no sense of self-awareness whatsoever in seeing how much they're looking in a mirror at themselves.